So next up, we're going to work with the for loop and see how for loop works in Python. So for loop.py is the new file we're going to create, and if you can remember, in the collections, especially in the collections, we've worked a lot with the for loop. We've looped through different set of variables in the list, in the tuples, in the dictionaries, and the sets. And here we're going to learn it from scratch and see all the details, all of the different modes we can use, all the different kinds of for loops that we can use, and see how it actually works. So one of the times we used for loop was when we wanted to see the letters inside a string. So for example, name equals Sarah, and we want to loop through different letters of this string or this name. So we write for x in name and then print x, and instead of x we can write any other variables, just like we said in the previous tutorials. And here Python 3 for loop.py for loop, okay, full loop for loop.py, and there we go, SARA and H. Also we use it inside a list. So we have a list and it equals for example a number like 1, a float number like 2.33, and it also contains a string with name Mike, also contains a boolean true. Also most of the time true and 1 are equivalent of each other, so instead I'm going to write false. And there we go, we can also put another list inside a list, which I'm not going to do that here. For x in list, we print x here. So let's see the result here. 1, 2.33, Mike, and false are printed out. So using this method, we've also printed out or looped through the list and also looped through a string. Now imagine that we want to loop through this list, but we don't want to print out 2.33. So to do this, we can use the break here. So for example, we can write for the same as we can use the very same thing as here. So, and I'm also going to comment this one and keep it because we're going to need it. So here I can use an if statement and say that if, for example, x equals Mike, so for example we want to skip Mike and not print it out. If Mike, so in order to skip Mike and then go after false, we can use continue here. But in order to stop the whole loop, and whenever we get to Mike, we want to completely break out of this loop and only print 1 and 2.33, we can write break here if x equals Mike, break, and otherwise you will print x. So here, as you can see, we have 1, 2.33 and false, and we have a skipped Mike. So for break here, I'm going to write another one. Also, let's comment the last one, and what break does is to put you outside this for loop after getting to mic, and it will print out only 1 and 2.33. So here, as you can see, you have 1 and 2.33. Let me also comment this one for a string so that you don't mix everything up. Rerun it, and 1 and 2.33. Okay, and there's also another way. For example, you know, up to here we've used break and continue for getting to when we get to a certain item, then we want to skip it, either skip it or break out of the loop. But there are times that we know that, for example, up to mic we have only 2 items, and so we know that there are 2 times we want to loop through this list, and up to 2 of the items and not anymore. So for example, we can write for I in range 2. So here we can write the range instead of this kind of format of writing. So, and also we can write print list, and inside of it we can write I. This way we can print out again 1 and 2.33, this time using this for loop, the other time using this one. Doesn't really make a difference, it's totally up to you. For example, you can use this one for a very long list where you cannot find mic and you cannot find the index related to mic, so that instead of counting 1, 2, 3 and 4 and putting it inside the range, you can simply write if x equals mic break, and otherwise it will print out x. And notice that we're not going to print else here, because here there is break, and once break happens, then nothing else will happen. So we won't have this print x, so there's no need to print else here. Anyway, you can also, if you want to loop through the entire list, you can write for I in range. If you want to use range, you can write length of list, but this is a very long way and it's not recommended. The easier way is to write print for x in list, print x. Anyway, this one is also one of the methods that you can use. Don't forget another parenthesis here. So in the next line we're going to write print list, and inside of it we can write I. And there we go. So what happens here is that we have 1, 2.33 mic and false. All of the items are going to be printed out. There are also moments that we want to have, for example, for I in we want to have a loop inside another loop, which is called the nested loop. So for example, we want to we will have a list, and the list is inside another list, or we want to have 2 sets of variables inside a dictionary, and we want all the kinds of pairs inside that dictionary from the 2 lists. So consider one of these lists is the keys of a dictionary, the other one contains the values of the keys of that dictionary. So we can write that, but before that one, it's probably better to create another file.